Welcome to Movers Suite Online Training, Van Line 100, the moving industry. In this session, we will discuss the industry as it pertains to the lines of business handled by the primary household goods providers. We will discuss the industry history, some industry terms, common industry practices, industry parties, and industry challenges. A moving company, or van line, is a company that helps people and businesses relocate their goods from one place to another. The moving industry is widespread today, from big corporate companies to small local businesses. But unlike modern days where we face an overpopulated scene of moving businesses, a long time ago there were barely any moving companies worth talking about. The moving industry originated in the United States. When newcomers and colonists traveled to populate the West, the first do-it-yourself moves were the immigrants, and they favored the use of the famous covered wagons. They used the wagons to pack their belongings and relocate to populate new areas, making them the first people that used a primitive form of moving. This form of moving can be compared to modern moving in that people banded together in companies of wagon trains to protect their property from loss. One could argue that the act of moving as described is not similar to professional moving help for that purpose, but the very fact that the need for moving companies was there is considered the spark that started the fire. Today's movers combine shipments to reduce exposure to loss and to reduce cost. The first moving companies that resemble the modern-day business model were created parallel to the development of the railroad industry. With railroad transportation becoming the main means of transportation in the United States during the 1840s to 1860s, small moving companies created their first warehouses near railways for convenience. They used pack animals to drive wagons to the warehouse in the city where the order was originated. Then they would unload them into a warehouse, after which they would load everything into a train car. As soon as the train arrived at the destination, another company would unload the goods into their warehouse, then use their wagons to finally transport everything to the desired home. Most of the so-called wagon firms had other main activities. Moving was an extra service that they could provide occasionally. By the end of the period, railroad transport had blossomed, but the moving business would not achieve the general form for which it has now until World War I. During World War I, paved roads were becoming a necessity to support the war effort. Motorized trucks were scarce, most of them being redirected to the military, and so was most of the fuel and accessories needed for their servicing. Not many companies could afford to possess moving trucks. At that time, the main cost that the growing population had to pay when moving into a new home was being directed at either the creation of new furniture in every town or at the handling of old furniture throughout the railroad warehouses, where it had to be loaded and unloaded several times before it could reach its destination. That was a concern of the founder of Red Ball, Warby Heiner. He figured out that it would be more profitable and cost-effective to move household goods items not by train, but by motor van, thus origination of the term van company, synonymous to moving company. That turned out to be an incredible idea, supported heavily in the first few years after 1919, during which the government was desperately trying to lower the economic dependence on the railroad transport as the dominating means of transportation of both goods and people. When the moving business of transporting goods with motor vans started gaining popularity, many of the companies were small and the industry was fragmented. The situation did not bode for drivers that worked on interstate orders, simply because they had either postponed the execution of the first errand in order to gather enough goods to fill the whole truck for the same or similar destination, or drive with just that one order all the way to another state. This increased costs substantially, or resulted in angry customers whose goods were delayed too much. That problem was resolved as industry steadily intertwined itself, resulting in many cooperation contracts. During World War II, the industry was forced briefly to revert back to train cars, but when the war was over in 1945, profits spiked upwards as all the soldiers returned home. Some of the oldest companies in the line of business have even survived to present days. Companies like Arrow Mayflower Transit Company of Indianapolis, now known as Mayflower Transit, and Johnson Moving and Storage United, now an agent United Van Lines. The moving industry history remembers many more moving companies. Some of them are still operating and some have closed. Up till today, where we have developed unregulated in terms of rates industry that provides moving services. Information about the line of business is rich, detailed, and widespread, and can be accessed by anyone. The U.S. Census Bureau informs us that about 40 million households perform a move annually, which is an incredible number all by itself. Knowing that, and the whole path that the moving industry had to take so that today we can order a moving crew with a single click, an email or phone call, makes you wonder what the business was like in the old days and how we can eventually bring back its unequal charm, which we have forsaken by the search for utility and profit. The moving industry history features a lot of professional moving companies that are still operating today. If you were looking for a professional moving company, it's always a good idea to select experienced movers that know what to do and how to properly handle the shipper's belongings. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 40 million people have moved annually over the last decade. Of those people who have moved in the United States, 84.5% of them have moved within their own state. That's an intrastate or local move. 12.5% of them have moved to another state. Crossing state lines, that's an interstate move. And 2.3% of them have moved to another country, or an international move. We see all those moves in Mover Suite. The cost for long distance moves is typically determined by the weight of the items that need to be moved. The distance, that's the mileage, how quickly the items are to be moved, as well as the time of year in which the move occurs. It is more expensive for a move to occur between May 15th and September 15th than in February. There's more traffic. Moving also involves finding or buying materials such as boxes, paper, tape, and bubble wrap with which to pack boxable and fragile household good items for their protection and for compact carrying and stacking on moving day. If you have a full service move, your carrier takes care of that, but there's other kinds of moves within the industry. Even self-service moving companies offer another viable option. The person moving buys space on one or more trailers or shipping containers. These large containers can often be up to 53 feet in length and are driven by professionals to the new location. The renters of the trailer or truck often sell or lease accessorials such as blankets, tie-down straps, packing materials, dollies, and ramps. The shipper's responsibility then is to make sure everything's packed and often loaded into the trailer, although they could rent the trailer loading labor from whoever's providing the trailer. As with all industries and cultures, there are specific terms, jargon, logo, acronyms that you'll see used in the moving industry. We're going to talk about a few of those that you might see used in Mover Suite to help you make that transition. Accessorials, these are services such as shuttles, extra stops, waiting time, extra labor that are added to the transportation costs and additional charges. In Mover Suite, you'll see an extra stops tab. Branches are defined for a moving company based on a van line affiliation, security, general ledger, type of service, or other need. Usually a branch is a location. Sometimes it's a line of business, but normally it's a location in Mover Suite. Our security in Mover Suite can also be branch-based. Claim, it's a statement of damage or delay or loss that occurred during a move while in the care and custody and control of the carrier or its affiliated agents. COD, well, that's cash on delivery, just like with most industry. COD is where the customer shipper pays for the move and charges at time of delivery. Consignee, this is the entity receiving the shipment of goods and may not necessarily be the owner of the goods. Consignor is the person at the pickup point where the move originates and may not be necessarily the owner of the goods, but this is the person that gives access to the goods to the carrier. DOT, that's the Department of Transportation. DOT is a federal agency which governs the interstate transportation industry, which includes moving. Now, DOT does not regulate rates, but it regulates services, so that once you have a contract and certain elements of the contract have to be adhered to. An estimate is professional assessment for the cost of moving services. An estimate is based on the volume of household goods, packing services, and other factors such as distance from the truck to your house, number of stair flights. A binding estimate is a flat rate quote for a given amount of inventory of the move. This is the estimate that typically provided on site. A non-binding estimate is an initial quote based on the company's past experience and is usually provided without an estimate. The final price is given when the move is completed. Estimates are like contracts in that the estimate is given to the shipper and for the list of goods and services to be provided, and the moving company then will adhere to those. Bill of lading. A bill of lading is what gives the carrier permission by the owner to transport the household goods. Fuel surcharge. Fuel surcharge is a percentage adjustment to moving costs that is based on the price of the fuel as reported by the U.S. Department of Energy. When fuel costs are soaring, the fuel surcharge is higher. As they drop, the fuel surcharge goes down. Gross weight is a term used to describe the total weight of the moving truck and its contents after all the goods are loaded. An international move is move is considered international if it takes place outside the United States or involves crossing the United States border. So when you have a move that goes from California to Hawaii, that's considered an international move because it's going over international waters. A move from Canada to the United States is an international move. A move from Paris, France to Germany, that's considered an international move because it's not within the confines of the continental United States. Interstate move. Interstate move involves crossing at least one state border. So if you were going from Pittsburgh to Cleveland, that's an interstate move because you've crossed state lines. Intrastate move. An intrastate move is a move that does not cross the border into any other state. So if you were moving from San Francisco, California to Los Angeles, California, while that's a great distance, that's still an intrastate move. Line haul. Line haul is a basic method of billing for transportation involved in a move. It is calculated according to the transit miles, distance from origin to destination, and the volume of the shipment. A discounted line haul is a dollar amount based on a reduced line haul charge. In Mover Suite, you're going to see discounted line haul on the Move Information tab. Local move is a move that both origin and destination services are normally complete within 50 miles of the agent. Moving across town. Order number. Now, order number Mover Suite, you're going to see that used throughout Mover Suite. An order number is a type of document contract number that is given to the order when it is booked. It can also be referred to as a document number, registration number, contract number. There are various names for it, but they're all basically the same thing. The number is referenced on bill of ladings, invoices, and other move-related documents. Own authority. An own authority move is one in which the moving company is acting as on its own outside the van line. That happens for local and interstate moves. The minute that move crosses a state line from California to Nevada, that then becomes an interstate move, and it moves under the authority of the van line. Provisos. A proviso is a non-personal property shipment consisting of fixtures, equipment, stores, offices, museums, institutions, hospitals, and other establishments. Second proviso is furniture. Third proviso is special projects such as electronics. SIT. SIT is storage in transit. You're going to hear that used a lot. So SIT refers to a temporary storage of items for a duration that is normally less than 180 days and is pending delivery due to a final destination. So when we were talking to Mover Suite, when we started talking about Mover Suite about SIT and primary and secondary deliveries, we'll remember that, what that definition is. And the last is van line authority. That's when it crosses state lines. There are other terms you're going to hear in addition to these, but these are the primary ones that we should get used to hearing and understanding what they mean as it pertains to using MoverSuite and documenting our move. There's a process for moving. First off, the shipper decides to move. The reason for that decision could be everything from a new baby to a new job to a new house or downsizing. Next, the shipper determines the method of the move. The method of the move could be dictated by an employer, so if your new job, the employer might be paying for the move. But a full service move is a moving company will load a truck, do the driving, then unload it at the new home. Additional services might include things such as packing, temporary storage might be offered. No matter the type of rate, this is typically the most expensive option. This is because they're doing everything. You'll see this type of move in MoverSuite. Shipper pack services still involves hiring movers. The shipper is the one who does the loading and unloading. The moving company will deliver a storage container to origin, which the shipper loads. Then the moving company transports it to destination. The shipper then completes unloading the container. Now, with this shipper pack services, sometimes you will also see the renting company will also provide other services, such as a crew to help load and pack. You will also see this type of service in MoverSuite. Truck rental. The shipper loads and drives a rental truck. Renting a moving truck is much cheaper than a full service move. There are additional costs such as material, time, and risk. Do-it-yourself moves. The shipper packs, loads, and transports everything, whether personal vehicle or a friend's pickup truck. Remember that principle of the wagon train of trying to keep everything together. Once the moving companies have been narrowed down to a few companies, estimates are requested. Some moves are paid for by the shipper's employer. If it's an employer-paid move, the employer may dictate the moving company. Next, the company is selected. When the moving company is selected, the order will be booked and an order number is given. Remember we talked about that contract number, and you'll see that order number in MoverSuite. Once the dates are set, the services will be scheduled. Common service dates are the pack date, the date the shipment is packed by the moving company, load date, the date the shipment is loaded into a moving van. This is the most common date in MoverSuite. And then a destination date, the date the shipment is delivered to destination. Note there are other dates in these moves that are common, but these are the most common ones. A move can also include other elements such as storage. Remember, storage is of items, those personal property items or household goods, and between origin and final destination. So we talked about SIT earlier, which was storage in transit. There are other types of storage. Claims are for items that have been damaged in the process of the move. So in MoverSuite, we can also handle storage and claims. In the move, there are principal parties. The first is the shipper. That's the entity that owns the property. We will document in the MoverSuite under first and last name. There's the booking agent. That's the agency that booked the move with the shipper and our customer. Carrier, an organization providing the interstate transportation of household goods under the Department of Transportation registration. The shipment is moved. Destination agent responsible for assisting or providing information regarding the shipment to the customer or van operator at destination move. This is also the agent normally providing SIT, storage in transit, for the order. Hauling agent is responsible for the vehicle, the moving truck, providing the transportation of the shipment. A hauling agent may be subcontracted by a moving company, or they may be an agent for the entire moving operation. Customer is the party responsible for paying for the costs of the moving services. This party may or may not be the shipper. It might be the employer. Origin agent, the agent at origination that is available for preliminary readying of the shipment before movement and or providing information regarding the customer's move. The services the origin agent may perform include, but are not limited to, surveying, packing, protecting orders for van line required pickup, that's a G11, Rule 19 or APU, and or storage. There are challenges in the moving industry that extend beyond traditional business competition, staffing, and management responsibilities. In September of 2013, moving companies met with the members of Congress. They asked for legislation to improve and enforce consumer protections, to strengthen federal consumer protections against rogue operators, unlicensed movers, as well as to require container compliance with federal household goods regulations. They want the container companies to have more standard containers. Standardization is an industry issue. There were movers who were not providing contract services, and they want a more consistent product delivered to consumers. Safe and reliable roads and bridges. The roads in the United States have a tendency to be rough in some areas. Whenever a truck hits a pothole, not only can they damage the truck, but they can damage the shipper's household goods. So they want to reduce the risk. And continuation of the federal moving expense tax deduction. It's very expensive for people to move. And that deduction that they get for moving just helps out on that cost a bit. This is the end of VL 100 clip, the moving industry. In this session, we discussed the industry as pertains to the lines of business handled by the primary household goods service providers. In this session, we discussed industry history, industry terms, industry practices, the industry parties, and the industry challenges. We hope that you found this clip very useful.